All right, hello and welcome to the Select Board meeting for Monday, August 7th. It is 6:30 PM. Would you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Is anybody here for open, do you want to go through the agenda? Are you good?
Good.
Is anybody here for open forum?
Me again.
You again. You should say your name and address for the record. Even though we all know who you are.
Junior, 788 Bridge Street.
What can we do for you tonight?
Last time we were before you, we voted on the guardrail in front of the property. Once again, we came home, we had a vehicle airborne, went across the property, nobody knew nothing. I had the opportunity to stop down and see Mr. Haynes last Monday, but he wasn't in the office. And I guess indication was he's hoping to have it done by August 31st.
Okay.
I did stop in the selectman's office that same day, and is there a problem on the funding for the guardrail and stuff?
Not to my knowledge.
I think he intends to get it from the fiscal '24 budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, because basically he's got it all measured out, and his office did call me back on last Monday around 3:15. He's indicated it should be done by August 31st, I'm hoping,
Sure. Yeah.
but we can't continue doing this every weekend.
Yeah, no, as far as we're concerned, it's just a matter of when the
Because there
schedules
seemed to be a
work to
little
be done.
confusion on the guardrail and the other things you were going to do in the intersection. I said, I'm not
Those are-
worried
those
about
are-
what
yep.
was got, there's two separate items that were
Correct.
voted on.
Correct.
So the only item I'm worried about is 7088 Bridge Street.
Right.
You can work on the approaches afterwards.
Right. Yep.
But I can't continue going through this every weekend.
No, that was our intention, as far as I know, is we voted
So
it.
you took a vote on it, you approved it?
Yep.
And according to John, he hopes it's going to be done by August 31st.
Great.
If not, I'll be back.
Okay.
You
Well,
can
thank
rest.
you for coming in and letting us know.
Thank you.
Let's hope that puts an end to all of it, right?
Yep.
All right, is anybody else here for open forum? Okay, we'll close open forum. Oh,
I just have a question. Do I need to present it or in regards to an application or? No? No. Okay. Great. Then I'm all set. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, we will go to our hearing. Clerk?
Yep. So hearing at 6:30, under the provisions of Chapter 166 of General Laws and any additions thereto or amendments thereof, the Board of Selectmen will hold public hearing on August 7th, 2023 at 6:30 PM on the petition of Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid, request permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Pine Street, install one pole on Pine Street, beginning at the point approximately 450 feet west of the center line of the intersection of Pine Street and Cedar Mill Lane. Install new pole 180-50 at approximately 42-
Those are coordinates, yeah.
coordinates, yeah, right. 70-936.
Okay.
Second.
Is anybody here on the hearing? Yep.
Yeah,
Come on up.
I'm here to answer any questions if you have.
Oh, okay.
The petition.
Letters have been sent to all of the abutters.
And nobody else is here about the hearing then, right? Okay, do you have any questions?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
But you might want to just have it on the record as,
There's two action items
Yep,
that relate to that too.
yep. Do you just
Mike-
want to state your name for the record? And
Yeah, my name's Rob Proud. I work for Control Point Technologies, an engineering contractor firm for National Grid.
Okay,
So this is our design.
this is your poll?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, if there's no
why
questions.
why is the poll necessary?
Okay.
Yep, so that pole specifically is being installed as part of, it's called the Flizzer program. But the pole, the equipment that's gonna be mounted on the pole is essentially just a breaker. Just if it faults on the line, it's gonna trip 3 times. If it doesn't clear in that time, then it just closes, or it opens, sorry, so electricity can't get through. That point where the pole is being installed, there's a junction of manual operated switches. So just electrically speaking, that's where the pole needs to go.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right. If there's no one else to speak on the hearing, we'll close the hearing. And we will move to those 2 action items.
Okay. I'm assuming it's action item 17.
Nope, it's 1 and
One
2.
and
One and
two.
two.
I know you want to get out of here, Peter. You gotta go on.
Jump in.
17 and 18. Action item 1, yes, approve the Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid, to install one solar pole on Pine Street, beginning at approximately 450 west of the center line of the intersection of Pine Street and Cedar Mill Lane. Install new pole 180-50, approximately the
Coordinates as printed.
Yes, thank you.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Approve the Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid, to erect and maintain poles and wires together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may need necessary. Said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed here with the mark Pine Street, East Bridgewater, Massachusetts, number 308-14991.
It's continued on the next page.
Oh, there is
Oh,
one.
wow.
Finish it.
Asking for a lot here, guy. Also, permission to lay and maintain the underground laterals, cables, and wires in above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distribution purposes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go, you're all set. Thank you for coming in. All right, we'll move forward with the rest of the action items. There's a bunch.
There is. Approve the minutes on June 12, 2023 Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Approve not, but not release the minutes of the June 12, 2023 Board of Selectmen's executive session meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve the minutes of the May 22nd, 2023 Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve but not release the minutes of the May 22nd, 2023 Board of Selectmen's executive session meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve the minutes of the July 17th, 2023 Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve but not release the minutes of the July 17th, 2023 Board of Selectmen's executive session meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve the date and the schedule for the 2023 special town meeting as printed.
Second.
Discussion?
Other than,
Charlie?
we are going to need one this fall for a number of reasons. Some of it's going to be housekeeping, some of it's going to be significant. We would likely be appropriating money, for instance, for a feasibility study, if the town wants to approve one, for the future of the Central Street Elementary School, for instance. We are working through that process with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and that's the next step, is that it's a reimbursement program, but they require at each stage that the town fund it completely before being eligible for reimbursement. And we know that for every project that's approved by the MSBA, that there are several more that they didn't approve. They have limits as to the amount of money they can borrow every year. And so we need to continue to move forward, obviously working with the school system, and also the newly formed East Bridgewater, with there'll be a school building committee, and part of that is to fund the feasibility study in October.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have we made any movement yet, Charlie, to put this building committee together?
There is the school committee, through the superintendent, did send in a list of individuals to serve. Carol, for instance, is the board's representative.
Yay. There hasn't been any meetings
Hasn't
yet.
been a meeting
But
yet.
yeah, I think she had to submit those names
Right, a couple
as the
months
first
ago, and
step of the process.
And I've been in contact with Liz. She's going to be doing some background work and also, I think, some public relations work on this, but I'm going to be contacting her later this week about how the committee might be able to help in all this effort, and that it might be prudent to have a meeting. We're down to 8 weeks now before the town meeting.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else on that?
Nope.
All right, all in favor of the time frame for special town meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve to open the October 2nd, 2023 special town meeting warrant.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just for
Oh,
those
sorry.
folks, well, no, it's fine, just for those folks, in the departments, but also our friends at home, the deadline to submit articles for that town meeting will be August 18th, so they've got about 10 days or
Okay.
so to submit. Obviously, we'll accept departmental articles, petition articles from residents would need 100 signatures from registered voters that are certified in order to get a petition article on the town meeting warrant.
Okay. Very good.
Designate town's representative to the OCPC Regional Water Study RFP Advisory Group.
Thank you, Peter.
Second, I mean, you are kind of the water and sewer guy.
Sure.
You are now.
I think John does something
Yes.
on that too, yeah.
So in fact, Old Colony Plan Council had received, I think it was like $4,000 grant to do this regional water study. And they are going to be, they'll hire a consulting firm to work with them on this, but also they want representation from the various communities in the region, including East Bridgewater. I had talked to John and Jason, and they've agreed that John would be the appropriate representative from the town. Jason would be the alternate. So if you could appoint John as the regular member and Jason as the alternate, at least for this,
Yeah.
it's gonna be this first stage, which is the RFP advisory group that drafts the RFP and then goes through the process of making a decision about the consultant. But then we'll have a different committee after that. There'll be a steering committee to work with whoever's hired to go through the study.
Okay.
Can we appoint Peter as second alternative?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. All right.
All right. All in
stated.
favor of John Haynes as representative and Jason Trepanick as alternate, say aye.
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 Discussion and vote
We're
on.
going to do that in executive.
Okay,
Sorry.
get rid of the next two, I would assume.
And the next
Right,
one,
all right.
those are both executive.
Okay. Moving on, approve a one-day liquor license and event permit for a car show at the East Bridgewater Commercial Club, August 5th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
How'd that go, Peter?
What's in town? I don't know. Guess so.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I love it when we do it that way.
Well, that was only done because of your husband's group in the past.
Yeah,
That's how we've always
husband's
done it.
Oh, yeah,
So we
okay.
can't do exceptions to that now.
No,
Just saying.
just saying.
Moving on. Approve surplus requests from IT Director Ryan McGonigal.
And you have to read every.
Yeah, I want you to
single
read
serial
all those serial numbers.
Sure, I quit. That's it.
You quit-
As
You
printed.
can't quit, you're on the water. committee.
Yeah, right. That's quite a few.
Yeah,
Second.
thank you. Any
Wait for
discussion?
them to go on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve the request from the Fire Chief, Tim Harron, for the quarterly ambulance billing abatements through June 2023 in the amount of $16,966.55.
Second.
Any discussion? I know the chief is not around tonight,
Right.
so.
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This isn't the same thing. Okay. Discussion and a possible vote on acceptance of the MGL Chapter 9, Section 17C, and declaration of a pond street or a portion of its as thickly settled with a designated speed of 25 miles per hour, and recommendations on possible signage, including but not limited to thickly settled dash 25 miles per hour.
Second for discussion.
Discussion? Charlie?
So the first step in being able to go down to a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit under thickly settled is acceptance of the statute. Previous to the statute being approved several years ago by the legislature, thickly settled was a 30-mile-an-hour designation. And I guess there were enough places across the state that had said we want to be able to bring it down even lower than the 30. And it's very difficult via a traffic survey to lower speed limits because most people drive faster than the speed limit. And the rule is that if you're going to set a speed limit for a stretch of road, that it has to be the 80th percentile of the cars. So if you take 100 cars, the 80th fastest car sets the speed limit, even if it's higher than what the town would like, for instance, or the folks on the road would like. You have to go via the measurements. And So even in a 30-mile-an-hour district, you may have people going at 35, for instance. This allowed communities to, by the statute, not have to do a traffic survey. They can base it on the number of houses within a certain amount of distance.
Okay.
Basically, the rule of thumb is if the average space between two homes is 200 feet, including both sides, then you can declare it to be thickly settled, and you could have a speed limit of 30. Now you can have a speed limit of 25 if the town's accepted that statute. And it's accepted through the Board of Selectmen, not through town meeting. It doesn't, simply because you've accepted the statute does not mean you automatically designate any road or all roads with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. You can
Okay.
do it on a road-by-road
Right.
or even section of a road basis. I know that some cities, for instance, because they're densely populated, have now done 25 miles per hour speed limits. You'll see that in, I think in Brockton, for instance. If you're driving at the border, you get to Brockton, you'll see citywide speed limit 25 miles per hour unless posted otherwise. I'm not, obviously, we're not Brockton. There are plenty of areas in East Bridgewater that don't meet those density requirements. But if you did vote for this, then you could consider, in this case, Pond Street. And Pond Street in that area would meet the criteria for thickly settled. What you could do is, if you wanted to direct John, is vote for those areas of Pond Street that would meet the criteria that they would be thickly settled areas, and then John could direct John to put up the appropriate signage. This is, we were talking about Pine Street obviously a few weeks ago. This is one of a few things we could be doing. There may be other things, but one of the things that was mentioned was, can we lower the speed limit on that area, bring it down to 25 miles per hour.
Okay. Do we have to like notify the people who live in on that street or neighbors or anything?
No.
Okay.
You could,
Well, we had the meeting when
We
we
had
asked
the meeting,
for
and
input.
we certainly publicized the fact that we were looking at various ways of increasing the safety for both motorists and pedestrians in that area. And I believe it was one of the things that we talked about when we had that sort of public forum within public
Right.
forum, specifically about the traffic changes that the board was contemplating. So I think that was sufficient in my mind.
Okay.
But there's no legal requirement.
Okay.
Because it's a mechanical matter of the board, if the board wants to, that's the only criteria is the number of houses per mile.
Okay. Discussion?
No, you went over it like you said, last meeting, it was pretty clear.
Okay.
I think I know, police chief is behind it too, Mike?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it would be a step in the right direction based on that last meeting we had, so.
Okay, great.
And that way we can enforce it as well, and put some teeth into it. If it's posted 25, it'll help my guys enforce it as well, so.
Yeah, and I think we
Definitely
need to
recommend.
post that both ends of ponds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion then? No?
I think we need a motion, please.
Can you make that into a motion now to do the
Sure.
change?
Make a motion, a motion to accept the MGL in Chapter 90, Section 17C, declaration of a Pond Street or a portion of the thickly settled with the designation speed of 25 miles per hour.
Okay.
Second.
And no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Last one, approve for the town administrator a contact state legislature regarding the bottle bill and discuss town by law concerning bottles.
Right. So the board, sorry, I want
Second.
to make a motion, I'm sorry.
Yeah. He seconded, you're
Okay,
good.
Several weeks ago, the board had discussed, because we had a resident come in during the public forum, asking them complaints about the number of miniatures or
Yeah.
liquor bottles that were being found on the streets in East Bridgewater. And the board took that under consideration. They talked a little bit about the possibility of contacting our legislative delegation about the various bills that would expand what's called the bottle bill, but basically the deposit returnable bottles to include the miniatures. Another thing was brought up. Maybe there's legislation to ban miniatures that's up at the State House. Another possibility, and some towns have done this, is to have a bylaw that would ban miniatures. And I know that the board had voted to take a look at the possibility of doing the bylaw. I had a couple residents come in last week to ask where things stood with that and wanted to encourage the town to take whatever action it could, because they had similar complaints about the number of miniatures. So I brought this back to the board for further discussion, whether the board wanted to contact our legislators, ask them to support the various bills that are up there that would expand the bottle bill to include the miniatures. I don't believe there's any legislation up there right now that would ban them statewide. When I was doing a check, I didn't find anything in the bill database. And then the other, and the board has discussed this, is whether the board wanted to get a bylaw drafted to present at a future town meeting if it wanted to, after reading the draft, and maybe even having some sort of public forum before even presenting at the town meeting to ban miniatures here in East Bridgewater.
Okay.
I'm all for sending something to the state legislature, senators and representatives. And I'd also like to draft our own bylaw and see if we can get it ready for town meeting in October. I said when we had the 5K here, the number of miniatures on the road, sidewalk, and everything else was a disgrace. And it's not going to get any better if we don't have a way to stop it. I know, and people have already said, how are you going to enforce it? I know it's almost enforceable, not enforceable, but at least it will be out there if someone sees someone do it, something can be said, but it's going to be tough to enforce.
Well, what we'd be doing is the sale of them. Obviously, they bring them over the town line and drink.
I am
There's
in
nothing
West
to
Bridgewater,
talk about.
Whitman,
We can stop
Hanson.
it
Right.
here from being sold,
Yeah,
but that's
right.
not going to stop
Yeah.
them from coming in.
It certainly would reduce the number.
Anything
one
that
way
we
or
can
the other.
do, yes.
Yeah. Peter?
Yes. Get it to the floor and let the people make a decision what they want to do. Sure.
Yeah. Do you think that there'd be time to do you have an inclination to do like a public forum and let people speak? Or do you want to just go forward and just bring it to town meeting? It's a short clock
Yep.
to,
Well, again, we have the, pre-meeting before we go to town meeting.
Mhm.
If they have something to say, then they can say. it.
okay, so let's make sure it's
Well,
on
and
the agenda.
also, September 11th, you have a meeting, which is all the same date as when you are going to go to press
Yep.
with the town meeting warrant. You could, at that time, have a public forum, make a final decision whether you want to include that article on the warrant.
And there are towns that have done this.
Yes,
Any around us?
I'll check. I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, I'd be curious how they did it and what I mean, I support it and I think it's a good idea. I
mean,
wonder
if
about
we don't have it ready, we don't have it
the
ready.
impact to our businesses in
Right.
town would be my question, are the stores that sell these, is this gonna, be detrimental to their business?
I mean, the opposition, I'm fairly aware of, because there was a vote in Halifax a couple of years ago, which did not pass. And, one is you are certainly going to be hurting the businesses. Second is, some people would say, fine, they'll, whatever the minimum is, if you say, I'm making this up, I don't know what the, if it's 150 milliliters that you're banning, they'll buy 200 milliliter bottles
Right.
and drink them and throw
Right.
them out.
Handles only, that's all we're selling town.
There's also a primary objection is basically, how dare you tell me what I can and
Right.
cannot buy in the town of East
Yeah,
Bridgewater?
yeah,
But
yeah, I can see this going that,
Yeah.
the potential for it, but I do think we need to do something, and I agree that we should also, see if our state delegation,
Well, I can do both. We can get a letter out to
Work on
our
this, too.
delegation to say we're encouraging you to support whatever bottle bills there are up there that would include the miniatures in the refundable category. And then second, and also in the meantime, during the next month, get a bylaw drafted.
okay. All right. There were a few additional acts. You
But I
don't,
don't
do you
know.
want us to vote on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you're directing me to do.
All
that.
right, so,
Doesn't mean you're voting for anything
but
other than.
you want us to vote to direct you
Yes.
to take that action? All right, then, all in favor of instructing our town administrator to take that action, say aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay. It was just a couple extras.
Yep, got them right here. Appoint Louise Sullivan as a member of the Council on Aging effective August 7th, 2023 through June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Lois, for stepping up.
She's been an alternate for a little
Yeah.
bit now, and she'll be a great asset to that board.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approve the request from the East Bridgewater Business Association to use the town hall parking lot for the car show portion of the EBBA Expo from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., October 7th, 2023.
Jim, why don't you give us a background on that?
Second.
Second.
Yeah, James, do you want to just
Sure.
tell everybody what that's going to be?
And, give more publicity for the whole
Yes,
thing, too.
Right.
you need, plug the event.
Free marketing, right? So James Stoffel, president of the EBBA, thank you for your time. So part of the liability insurance that we have to apply for, it lists a bunch of items. One of the things they asked us, were we going to have something? I'm like, well, why not? So the members reached out, and there are people even in East Bridgewater that are car fanatics, and in fact, there's one that works in, well, car enthusiastics. We have one that works in the assessor's office, and it just seems like it's a win-win. So you have a bunch of vendors at the Common, people are gonna bring in their family. What better way to draw them there is you've got pony rides, you've got a car show, you've got food. So that's what we're looking to do. We're also letting the vendors know that they can sell some of the wares at the table. It hasn't been done in the past, but we.
You're gonna
we made-
allow that this year?
Yeah, we made sure that was
Good.
checked off, it was approved, we thank you very much. And that in itself has changed some of the vendors on how they want to join, because they really didn't have a way to say, this is what we offer as a business. Now they can bring some samples there.
That's great.
So, again, just another way of trying to get people there. If someone wasn't interested in saying maybe a business, but they like cars, now they'll go there. While they're there, maybe they'll buy a hot dog, which will benefit a food vendor.
Right.
So we're hoping that there'll be a little bit of cross-dressing, so to speak, going from back and forth. With that road blocked off, it's a perfect spot for the food trucks. We're hoping to at least have 4 or 5 there,
Great.
hot dog, ice cream type of stuff, and then you'll have your business there. So, and we have kids stuff. So that's what we're looking to do.
Excellent. Now we just hope for good weather.
Exactly. So, well, we are, as a side note, we are looking to chat with the high school to see if it were to be torrential, can we move it indoor into the high school that day?
Mhm.
We don't have anything definitive yet, but we're waiting to hear back from them on that. So,
Great.
I know, obviously, when we had the multicultural event, they were able to move in there. I think it was more because of the heat. Obviously, there was always a chance it was going to rain. They weren't certain, but I think also just having people out there in that warm weather was going to be difficult. So.
Well, we'll cross our fingers for a perfect New England fall day,
Knock on wood.
right?
Knock on wood.
Absolutely.
A Chamber of Commerce day for
Even
the,
yesterday would have been perfect.
yesterday
Yeah.
was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any
no, I think
questions?
it's great. Jim, I've known a long time, and it's glad to see, I'm really happy that you took the reins and put the group together, and we look forward to the event.
Yeah, we thank
Further,
you.
absolutely.
Yeah, Jim and I have talked about this from the beginning, and it's, it's a great kickoff. You've added a whole lot of things that the organization hadn't done before, and I think you're right on spot. It's gonna bring in a lot more people.
Yeah,
Great,
yeah,
thank you.
very
Appreciate
exciting.
it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much, appreciate the vote.
Let's see, next, approve the request of Angelina Punwani, Angelic Bravery Tinker and Play for the use of the Sachem Rock Farm on Wednesdays for additional Tinker Garden-based classes in 2023, starting September 13th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Do we have a final date on that, Rebecca?
That's what I was looking for.
No, it's been a continuous program.
Okay.
We have run it by Nancy Hill, the COA director, and there may or may not be some Wednesdays where they might have an event at the COA where we would have to notify the Tinker.
Okay.
She'll just work with her directly on that. Okay.
Mhm.
The organization's been there for a couple of years now,
Yeah.
and they have a lot of fun down there.
They did the rock snake as well, so.
Right.
Okay. Did you
I'll
second
sec-
it?
I did.
Okay. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's all I have for you, Madam Chair.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, announcements. Rebecca, staff report, anything? Nope. Okay, Charlie. Take a big drink of your
Right.
Diet Coke and then tell us all this stuff.
Sure. So the Highland Street donation, which was a land donation, the town approved at a town meeting back in May, and we finally got the deed work done and approved. It's now at the registry, so we've gone through that process, just so the board, it's on the record that, at least it's in the selectmen's minutes, that on Green Communities, The lighting projects for the library, council on aging, fire station, and town hall have been completed. This work was done actually mostly in the late winter and into the spring, but we had to file the final report on the project back a few weeks ago, working with Old Colony Planning Council on that. That's been submitted. We're waiting for an approval from the state, and once that comes, we received a small amount of the money earlier, but the total grant was a little over $150,000 for this work. So obviously it's going to be very helpful for us. But it also, the completion of the work and submission of the final report does allow Brian to work with OCPC and our consultant, Chris Collins, to submit a competitive grant application this fall. So there's still more energy efficiency work that can be done in the various buildings, and we'll be submitting for that. Opioid finances, the financial staff had met with the Mass Division of Local Services, I think it was last week. We found out that the money the town did appropriate at previous town meetings for opioid remediation and prevention or drug addiction, we did it properly. The problem is that the way the state set up its rules is that the money's going into free cash on June 30th, meaning a month and a half ago. There's no harm involved. We will come back to town meeting in October, reappropriate the money. It will go then into the stabilization fund that the town meeting had approved back this spring already. And then once it's there, it stays there. It doesn't get turned into free cash. Town meeting will have to appropriate it at some point, but it will stay there until town meeting is ready to appropriate the money for those efforts. So if somebody's surprised, why is this back on the warrant? That's what happened.
Okay. And I think we need to be mindful of how we explain that at town meeting, because I saw some things on social media afterwards that people were confused, that they thought we were spending that money and not that we were just receiving that money and then we would spend it. So we just need to be mindful of how that's presented so that people are clear on what exactly is happening.
None of the money has been spent. I know through David's efforts, we're trying to look at various ways of, in fact, working with other communities to see if we can do something jointly. If we have to do it by ourselves, we're not thinking so much about hiring, new employees or anything like that. There's not that much money available.
Right.
But working with established agencies and such on both parts of the program, prevention, if we can get people not to take illegal drugs and opioids and such, that is a far easier step than doing the remediation, but there's also all the aspects of remediation, because it's usually not just drug addiction is not an isolated problem. It goes with many other things. And so working with these individuals and their families and such on all the aspects that bring them to that point.
And again, the way the state set this up is a whole lot of different criteria, and that's the only criteria we can use that for. So it's not a simple case,
Right.
you're gonna take it and move it, that doesn't work that way.
Right.
That's why we needed to try and work with other towns, and I had worked with the chief, police chief about this, but at least at that time, no other town was willing, because they hadn't gone that far as where they're gonna go with it. But if we can bring 4 or 5 towns together and have a large amount of money,
Can do more.
then we'll be able to do more that will be beneficial in being seen by the public.
Right, absolutely.
Digital Equity Project, this is a project being funded by federal and state dollars. Just very briefly, the concept is that whether it's East Bridgewater or any other community in Massachusetts, there are residents who don't have access to the internet. And why that's important, a perfect example is the Compass Medical closure, where residents suddenly had no way of getting their information, of finding new doctors and such, and the Council on Aging and the library were very helpful of getting people who didn't have the expertise or didn't have the equipment or access to the internet, working with them on the public computers there at the library and the Council on Aging to assist them in that effort. But digital equity means trying to eliminate the barriers that prevent people from being able to access the internet. It might be equipment. Maybe they don't have a laptop. Maybe they don't have a smartphone. Maybe they don't have an iPad or the equivalent. Access in terms of subscription to Verizon or Cox or whoever. If you don't have that connection, you have no place where to connect to. And then 3 is the expertise. Fine, you've got a laptop. You don't know necessarily how to use it to get into the internet and get to the sites, to, whether it's Medicare, Social Security, veterans, IRS, whatever agencies, whether it's government, nonprofits, whatever, so that you can get information, so you can do business, so you can order things and anything like that. The idea is to bring efforts so that we eliminate the barriers in all three categories. And this is a nationwide, but also a statewide project. This is through the Massachusetts Broadband Institute. So there are two aspects particularly for East Bridgewater. One is there is a statewide survey. We have copies of the survey available online on the town website. We also have paper copies for folks. You can't assume that everybody has access to the internet, so that's why we have paper copies here at the here at Town Hall, at the library, and the Council on Aging. And then we're doing a workshop next week on Tuesday at the Council on Aging at 7 p.m. So that residents, other interested parties can come personally to talk about what their experiences are, but also to offer ideas and suggestions. What could the town, what could the state be doing that would eliminate those barriers for you or your family or your friends about access to the internet? There's also a series of regional listening sessions. The one for Southeastern Massachusetts will be Thursday, September 7th at the Boys and Girls Club up in Brockton at 5 p.m. And we have information about those, about the survey, about the workshop here in East Bridgewater, and also the listening session up on the town website. But obviously, folks who can't access information but are able one way or the other to watch this program will call the selectman's office and I'll be able to provide that information. Back in November, we had gotten 2 earmark grants, and I let those lie a little bit simply because, for a couple of reasons. One, we were busy with a number of other projects. Second, I'm very glad that the East Bridgewater Business Association's back up and running. Was, okay, how are we going to work with businesses here in East Bridgewater? But been working with OCPC on a grant agreement. We have the money available for marketing for businesses in East Bridgewater, but also economic recovery efforts. And I should be hearing back from Mary Waldron, I'm hoping a little bit later this month, to bring a contract agreement to the board.
Great.
So that they can do the actual grunt work about on these efforts, because we don't have the personnel here in East Bridgewater, and they have the expertise. So I'm hoping to be able to report something back to the board later this month, but I wanted the board to be aware of that. Heavy commercial vehicle exclusion. John Haynes and I had submitted the necessary paperwork for the MassDOT to approve the heavy commercial vehicle exclusion on Cottage Street. It's not done. It got submitted. The state needs to still approve it. So anybody thinking the signs are going to go up tomorrow, it's not happening. We have to get the state to approve it first. I don't have a timetable for that, but if it is approved, then we would still have to get the signage installed. We'd work with the DPW and the police department, sort of on a probationary warning period, in the sense of, yes, we're going to have the signage up there and have ways of notifying people who might have heavy commercial vehicles. So we're not, immediately pulling everybody over, but at some point that ends, and then the police department will be able to do its work if it receives complaints. Pedestrian crossings for Route 18, these are up at the library. John and I have been researching and working with OCPC on whether various grant programs at the federal level might allow us to qualify for funds to put in signals at those crossings up by the library. What's weird is there's plenty of money out there. We're too small. I don't mean East Bridgewater is, but what we're looking to do is not going to cost, it's way below the minimum. I mean, one of the programs was the minimum grant was $5 million. We're not spending $5 million. I guess we could hire people to walk people across the street or something like that. But for what we were trying to do. So we are looking at the Safe Routes to School program, because one of our primary worries is you have students from the various schools in the area going across the street, whether it's the library or other establishments, or maybe it's both. But that there's a grant workshop the latter part of August. I've notified the public school system and both the administration and the school committee about it, because their buy-in is required for that. Also, there's one other Safe Roads program here in Massachusetts, but we have to wait for the grant cycle to roll around, and John and I can take a look at that. But I know we had people interested, what could the town be doing up there? Well, we don't have funding right now for that, but we are still looking to see if we can get state or federal funds to do something up there at some point. It is a state route, but the state has said that if we can get the money and we do all the design work and everything like that, and obviously, and then pay for it, as long as it meets their criteria, in terms of the design and everything, and we would tell any designer, you need to meet MassDOT criteria, they should be able to approve it, even though it's their road. It's just not high enough on their priority list for them to be spending money at this point.
Maybe for $5 million, we could build a pedestrian bridge.
Yeah, right.
Is this something new, Charlie? Because we've been asking for that for probably 20 years to get some kind of signals up there, and the state has already just always told us no.
Well,
It's
I
state
don't,
road.
all I can tell you is, they said yes, as in, you do it,
You do
we'll
it.
still have to approve it, but if you want to do it,
We
you can
won't
do it.
stop you.
That's fine. That's great.
It would be nice.
In terms of other money, the state budget is before the governor. The governor needs to make a decision about the state budget by Thursday, but luckily for us, and through the work that was done by a legislative delegation, I believe most of the earmarks, even the ones that hadn't made the cut originally, are back in the conference committee budget. This includes $25,000 for maintenance and repairs for the East Bridgewater Public Library, $40,000 for specific waterproofing and sealing the library, another $21,000 for digital radio pagers for the fire department, another $10,000 for the grab and go meals that they've been running that program over at the Council on Aging. And then EB Hope is one of, I believe, 6 regional organizations on substance abuse that would share $90,000 evenly. So EB Hope would get $15,000 out of that 90. That's also in there. As I mentioned, though, the governor has to make decisions by Thursday, so I'm hoping by Friday we'll be able to know. Not again that the money shows up the next day, but at least we'll be able to tell the departments, and we hope that, hey, it's coming.
Good.
And then one other thing that came in late this afternoon, if it's okay if I announce the resignation?
Mhm.
Okay. Paul O'Brien, our chief of police, officially sent in his resignation notice, retirement notice. It was effective on Saturday, August 5th. I wanted to say, even though obviously I didn't work with Paul for very long, it's probably about a year and a half or so, it was well worth it. The knowledge he had about East Bridgewater, about the police department, was instrumental in my learning more about the town. And it was a good working relationship with him. I'm wishing, very thankful for his service, not just as police chief, but as a member of the police department for all these years, and I'm wishing him the best in his retirement.
Yeah, I think we all wish him a long and
do.
healthy and happy retirement. I actually saw him on Saturday. He looks good. So.
Great. Yeah, he means a lot to the town. He's, he's left a mark with the town. It's gonna be tough to follow, Mike.
Is
And
that
that's
it
all
for
I
you,
got.
sir? All right. Any questions for Charlie?
None. Thank you.
Okay. Board discussions? Peter?
I don't have anything. No.
David?
The next bicentennial event is this Saturday at the YMCA in East Bridgewater from 11 to 1.
I heard it was sold out.
There's, they didn't put a cap on it. The last count I had was over 600 people are going to be there. I don't know where we're going to put them, but they have all kinds of events. I can't name them all. Patriots cheerleaders will be there. Pat Patriot's going to be there. And they have pony rides and face painting and a whole bunch of things. So even if you haven't signed up yet, feel free to join us.
Thank you to the Bicentennial Committee once again. Anything else from you?
That's it.
And I just want to extend our congratulations to Allison Sullivan, who safely delivered a baby girl last week.
Oh, nice.
And mother and baby and father are all doing well.
Is
So
there a name?
Alina Teresa, I believe. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
8 pounds, 12 ounces. Big girl. So congratulations to Representative Sullivan Almeida.
Doing well, and they're coming home tomorrow, I believe.
Terrific.
We expect a visit, right?
What's that?
They should come here first.
Yeah.
Next Monday.
She'll be at the next board.
Next Monday.
Next board meeting.
You won't be here, so.
No, well, I like babies. Okay, so we are going to go into executive session.
Yes.
Yes.
And we may be returning. We're not sure. Sorry,
Right.
Zach.
Yep. All right, so pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Police Chief, Deputy Police Chief, vacation policy for non-union personnel, Chris Buckley, Megan Crosby, Rebecca Johnson, Alex Welch. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy for, with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body and the chair. So declares fire chiefs, superior officers, clerical, DPW, dispatchers, superior officers, patrol officers, East Bridgewater Police Association grievance. I, Peter Spagone, Jr.
I, David Sheedy.
Hi, Carol Julius. Okay.
Thank you.
We all gonna fit in your office? Okay, we're back. It is still. Yeah, well, sometimes we're speedy. Are we good? Okay, and we're back. It is still August 7th at the regular Select Board's meeting, and we have a motion.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion for non-union employees with 5 years of service not on the wage grid to receive 20 vacation days each year. Each year shall be able to carry over 5 vacation days into subsequent year. The total accumulation days of vacation carried over cannot exceed 5 days at any time, and each year shall be able to buy back 5 days.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we need to vote again to go back
Yeah,
into
yeah,
executive?
I would do that.
Okay. So we're going to go back into executive to discuss the other matter that we had, and we will not be
For the
returning
reasons,
to
I
open
think-
session after that.
You're doing it under, right, we're not
Yeah,
doing
none
a
of us brought our
non-union,
paperwork.
so discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation as a discussion in open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Firefighters, superior officers, clerical, DPW, dispatchers, superior officers, patrol officers, and the grievance filed by the East Bridgewater Police Association.
Okay.
As stated, I, Peter Spagone, Jr.
I, Dave Sheedy.
Aye, Carol Julius. All right, good night, everybody.